I'm Peter Block here in New Orleans at the AHA annual meeting. On my left is Steve Nichols from Adelaide, Australia. Steve has been very interested in the whole cholesterol issue and how we take care of patients that have hypercholesterolemia. And now we have a new trial, Steve, that is a little bit of a disappointment, but actually points out, I think, some very important clinical issues. So tell me about your trial, and then we'll talk about results.
Thanks. We're presenting the Milano-Pilot study. You may remember in 2003, Steve Nissen presented really what was a landmark trial suggesting that infusing HDL containing apia-I Milano rapidly regressed plaque on IVUS. What we've seen over the last 10 to 13 years is that we've been able to optimize the way that we make these particles. And so what we wanted to do was to do the same study in 2016, but do it in ACS patients who are treated with much more contemporary therapy.
So the issue of the contemporary therapy bubbles up again when we think about what this really means. So before I get to that, let's talk about what you found.
So what we found was that if you look at changes in plaque burden, there's no difference between the placebo and the active treatment group. So we don't see the incremental regression with apia-I Milano on top of background therapy that we saw in 2003. And that really has important implications, suggesting that that's probably not a viable strategy to move forward to try and bring that as a new therapy to clinical practice.
So to be blunt, apia-I Milano is probably dead as a therapeutic agent. Nonetheless, I think you point out in what you just said some very important issues. So let's talk about that a little bit, because 2003 and 2016 are very different times.
They are. So 90% of the patients in this trial are treated with high-intensity statin therapy. We see LDLs get down to 60. We see CRP get reduced by 60% during the trial. We see in the placebo group HDL goes up a bit, triglycerides go down a bit. These patients are being well looked after, and it really tells us that if you want a new therapy for patients, it's got to get above and beyond the effects that really good contemporary management does. You made a really important point. apia-I Milano may be dead, but there are other shots on goal with regards to the HDL story. We're desperately waiting to see if any of those will work.
Of course, but the good news is I think that by lowering LDL cholesterol and possibly even raising HDL, we're doing something to make specific therapies maybe not so important, and we are taking pretty good care of our patients.
I mean, there's no doubt that if we really aggressively treat our patients with the therapies, both lifestyle and pharmacologic, that we have right now, that's a big plus for our patients. We know that some of those patients will still have events, which is why we keep searching for new therapies.
So there's your message. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate your time.